Welcome to Let's Talk Nutrition. Thanks for tuning in today. Great to be with you, and hope you're having a good day. Here we are in the middle of it all. And Dr. Michael Lewis will be along today. Dr. Lewis is pretty cool and smart. And it's a guy that you talk about high achievers. My goodness. Went to West Point. Was in the military. He was a physician in the military for decades. Achieved high rank. Now has his own practice, and he makes it look easy. And I've chatted with him about his experience at West Point when he's been on before, and it's interesting what he has to say about that. Let me get some volume on my headset here. There you go, a little better. And we always encourage listeners and viewers to call the show, get dialed in. We're here. That's why we're here. That's why we show up. The show is about the audience. That's what I told my students for many years. It's never about you. It's always about the audience. And once you forget that, you'll lose your way. So you can get in touch with us. Call us. Don't hesitate. Even if it's off topic, I don't care. And this is how you do it.
877-897-8255. 877-897-8255.
Lately, I have put a lot of attention on, you'll notice I do this, I'll stick with the theme and keep trying to develop the theme because oftentimes you can't get it all laid out in one presentation. And lately, I've been talking about dietary fat. And it has been the source of a lot of conceptual confusion and disagreement, consternation between and among experts and for consumers. It's been very confusing. And they don't know what to do. Should I eat fat? Should I not eat fat? Which kind of fat? What? Carbs? Is it the carbs? What is it? So I'm going to try to talk a little bit about this before Dr. Lewis comes on. I'll start off with a study that's trending, and it deals with fat and cancer, in particular breast cancer. And the headline on the study was Breast Cancer, Maternal High-Fat Diet Raises Risk Across Generations, no less. Now, this was an experiment. It was, using an animal model. Don't dismiss those and say, oh, they're not. No. This is how it works. You start there, and then they begin to extrapolate those findings, and then next they start to look at humans and see how it would pertain, and then how to study this issue with humans. Experimental research is critical to test or to confirm or disconfirm hypotheses and theories and to provide direction forward for clinical trials and whatnot. So this was with mice, and they found that with pregnant female mice, of course they would be female, shows that exposure to a high-fat diet increased their risk of breast cancer across generations. The findings consolidate, they said, bring together an understanding of breast cancer factors and help to improve prevention. There's so much we don't know about cancer and the diet-cancer connection. There's a lot we know, but there's a lot we don't know. Now, breast cancer, as it turns out statistically, is the second most widespread type of cancer among women in our country. This is according to the American Cancer Society, who estimate that there will be approximately 40,610 deaths attributed to breast cancer in 2017. Think about that for a minute. are going to be over 40,000 women this year that are going to die from breast cancer. You know, there are places on the planet where that statistic would never be reported. And you hear me talk about those places. Makes you wonder, doesn't it? Doesn't make me wonder so much because I know now, I'm convinced that diet is the leading cause of death. And in some of these cultures where the diet is so much different than ours, more wholesome in the ways I've discussed, these kinds of statistics are not reported. Now, the known causes of lifestyle-related breast cancer over the years, we've learned this, include what? Alcohol, bad news, sedentary lifestyle, terrible, obesity, clearly connected, contraceptives, hormone therapy, and breastfeeding. Not that breastfeeding causes it, would decrease it. Now, what this research is doing is they said the new research may add an imbalanced diet during pregnancy to the list.
I seen that with my family. My niece, she does not. She's going to have her second kid, and her eating habits are just very awkward. And I don't mean like, hey, I'm craving pickles and ice cream. It's more like she will be hungry, she won't be hungry. She'll be hungry, she won't be hungry.
Does she eat healthy, or is she eating unhealthy food?
No, they eat a lot of red meat.
She's pregnant?
Yep. I mean, you hark on not eating red meat.
And not the way that people are doing it 4 and 5, 6 times a week. It's just not a good idea. And if she's pregnant, a high-fat diet, not a good idea. This is where the epigenetic comes into being. What we now know, there's a whole body of work now developed and being developed, where what we eat, what the mother eats during pregnancy, doesn't affect the genetic sequence. What it affects is the expression of genes. And the baby will be born with certain predispositions because of what the mother ate. So our relationship with food, as I say often, begins in utero with what our mother ate. And eating a high-fat diet, eating a diet that's high in refined processed carbohydrates, high in sugar, all of those have grave implications for the fetus and then the child once born, for whether their propensity for obesity, cancer, and other conditions. This is not science fiction. You know, it's just stunning to me how what we eat is so intricately and dynamically implicated in our biology. And we say, yeah, I know. And we sort of take it for granted. Let medicine be your food and food your medicine. Boy, Hippocrates wasn't kidding when he said that. I'll tell you a little bit more about this high-fat diet. Intergenerational. The intergenerational impact of diet. Not only did it create the propensity for breast cancer in the generation that the mother, but further on down the line. That's amazing.
I'm Joy McCarthy, holistic nutritionist, and I expect more from my multivitamin. I've researched many vitamins, and what's truly different about Every Woman's One Daily from New Chapter is that it's fermented with probiotics and whole foods and gentle even on an empty stomach. Every Woman's One Daily helps you feel good every day, giving you immune, energy, and stress support, and nutrients for bone and heart health. You will notice a difference. Every Woman's One Daily recently won the Best Multivitamin Award, and I love that it's non-GMO project verified. Discover the wisdom of nature with New Chapter.
Whether you spend your free time on a treadmill, under a car, or in your garden, if your active lifestyle leaves you sore, Body Vigor's Inflammaforce may be exactly what you need. Inflammaforce has a natural herb blend that acts as an anti-inflammatory to help maintain healthy joint and mobility support. There are standardized herbs like white willow, boswellia, turmeric, ginger, and devil's claw. The vegetarian capsule promotes easy digestion and a fast-acting dissolve process. Inflammaforce includes a proprietary enzyme herbal blend full of antioxidants and flavonoids that target pain and inflammation throughout the body. Body Vigor's Inflammaforce contains ingredients that support normal, healthy joint flexibility and function, builds healthy tissue, and helps with your recovery process. So if you're tired of sore joints and inflamed muscles, Body Vigor's Inflammaforce is your answer. Purchase Inflammaforce exclusively on Amazon.com.
Compelling body of evidence that strongly suggests that a high-fat diet is not only deleterious relative to heart disease, but also cancer. And what's interesting and what gets a little confusing, that the argument about saturated fat versus carbohydrate is that they focus strictly, not strictly, but more often than not, they zero in just on cardiovascular disease. Well, a high-fat diet has implications for other conditions and diseases as well, lest we forget. Welcome back to Let's Talk Nutrition. Talking about an experiment was done with mice, and they found that a high-fat diet, when the mother ate a high-fat diet, it had intergenerational effects or impact. And this is interesting. If you can just bear with me, I'll tell you how they set the experiment up, and you'll understand why I thought it was a good study. They had the mice specimens, and they were mated in two different phases, okay? In the first phase of the experiment, you had pregnant female mice, and then they were randomly divided into one of two groups after they mated. Okay, so they got them pregnant, and then they put them into two groups. The females in group 1 were fed a diet with normal fat intake, about 16% of their calories from fat. The mice in the pregnant mice in the second group were fed a high-fat diet. It was like, fat. 41% of the calories came from fat in that diet. It was more, twice as much, more. Around 39% of the calories came from corn oil, while roughly 2% of the calories from the fat came from soybean oil. So that's how they got that high fat level. What you need to know about mice, the gestation period in mice is around 19 to 21 days. That's it. That's why they use them in experiments, and biologically they yield results that do pertain to humans. And so the controlled feeding of the second group started on the 10th day of their pregnancy. The control, which roughly corresponds to the second trimester of pregnancy in humans. And that's where the ovaries of the female fetus begin to develop. The offspring and further generations resulted from this phase of the experiment were placed on a normal diet. Now, in the second phase of the experiment, the female offspring that resulted from the previous phase, the first generation offspring, were mated with males that were fed a high-fat diet. All the females that fell pregnant in this stage were fed a normal diet. See what they did? They wanted to see if feeding the males a high-fat diet would have that same intergenerational effect. Here's what they observed. First and third generation female offspring, or daughters and great-granddaughters, that had been exposed to a high-fat diet through their mothers were at an increased risk of developing breast cancer, and that malignant tumors settled earlier in these generations, they said. That didn't happen with when the fathers were fed a high-fat diet. The findings suggest that direct exposure in the womb to a genetic makeup already susceptible, they said, to an increased threat of malignant tumors amplifies the risk of breast cancer development over generations. Professor Hilaviki Clark said, quote, "The soil in the breast, so to speak, remained fertile for breast cancer development in our high-fat experiment mice." Now, we also know from human studies that women that eat a high-fat diet tend to become susceptible to breast cancer. So it's not just animal studies that give us this foundation. So I beseech you, please do not pay attention to these arguments where they're saying to people, oh, it's not the fat, it's not the saturated fat, it's those carbohydrates that get people into trouble, and that's the cause of all of our problems. That is just wrong-headed, and scientifically, that's not supported. They claim it is, but they only refer to a few studies that fit their purpose and ignore the corpus of work over decades that says a high-fat diet is bad news. I mean, come on. If I thought eating a high-fat diet was good for you, I'd be the first one on the planet every day to tell you to do it. And a diet high in saturated fat is worse yet.
Doc, you ever go behind a restaurant and see where they dump the grease from the day?
Yeah.
Have you noticed that it eats the pavement? They don't have it on blacktop. They put it on concrete.
And it just degenerates the pavement.
Because it'll eat the pavement. But you'll see around it, like it'll eat the grass, it'll eat the pavement, and you're eating that, and that's going inside of you. And
I understand.
It was one of those like aha moments I had the other day.
Crazy,
yeah.
Right? I mean, it's just not good. And I could tell you, I remember the Time magazine article. You remember it back in 2015? On the front cover, it said, "Eat butter. Scientists labeled fat the enemy. They were wrong." Or why they were wrong. You remember that article in Time magazine? That was a propaganda hit job, in my opinion. Now, many of my colleagues disagree with me. I don't care. That's my story. I'm sticking to it. I believe I'm right. I think that's in the best interest of the consumer. LTN Coast to Coast.
Looking for the perfect complement to your beauty regimen? Try Form Essentials Zinnia. The finest of its kind, Zinnia offers twice as much biotin as other formulas, which has proven to unlock the vibrancy in even the dullest of hair, skin, and nails. Zinnia breaks through and rejuvenates cells internally, helping you achieve the allure of effortless beauty. Reviving your hair, skin, and nails has never been easier. This essential blend of biotin, alpha-lipoic, and hyaluronic acid, collagen, and vitamin C creates lasting enhancements to your natural good looks. Don't go on wondering, you're worth the results. This combination of ingredients can only be found in Zinnia. Pamper yourself with a proven bit of affordable luxury and start looking your best. Ask for Zinnia by name at your nearest vitamin retailer to begin your journey to restored nails, head-turning hair, and radiant skin today. For more information, visit formessentials.com.
When your alarm goes off, do you jump out of bed with excitement? Or does it take multiple alarms, a few snooze buttons, or a morning caffeine fix to get you going? These habits and daily stress cause a vicious cycle in which sleep becomes increasingly elusive. In fact, 54% of Americans report struggles to fall or stay asleep. For a better night's rest, look no further than Solace, an all-natural dietary supplement that supports healthy sleep and relaxation, so you get the rest you need to wake up clear-eyed, alert, and ready for the day. Solace has given thousands a better night's rest and the power to take back their mornings while enjoying the day ahead of them. Solace is formulated with non-addictive, scientifically proven, all-natural ingredients that support sleep and relaxation, such as melatonin, tryptophan, and 5-HTP. For more information or to order Solace, visit takesolace.com. Solace, for healthy sleep naturally.
Welcome back. Welcome to Let's Talk Nutrition, wherever and however you may be listening or watching the show, and whatever you may be doing. And, we invite you to please participate in the conversation. I find dialogue far more intriguing and interesting than monologue. And I'm interested in what's on your mind, what you think, what you feel, what you do relative to your health, wellness, and well-being. I mean that. There's so many people that listen to this, thousands of people that listen and watch this show. There's so much knowledge out there in the audience. And you might share something that could help another. Heck, it might even help me. So please get in touch with us. Here's several ways to do it.
You can reach us at 877-897-8255 or at Dr. Garko at letstalknutrition.com. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook and Twitter at LTN Radio, and on Facebook at Let's Talk Nutrition. That's one word.
And we have an app.
We do have an app. If you go to the app right now, you can click on the app, go through your Android or your iPhone store, and it's a simple app.
That's where they download it, right?
Yep. Let's Talk Nutrition. And once you open it up, it has a picture of that guy. I know that guy. Dr. Garko. I know that guy. And then you can go on there, and the code, save $5 off a $35 purchase, and the code is GARKO, GARKO. And that's for vitamin discount centers online.
Mm-hmm.
So.
It's all good. It's all good. And every day at the end of the second hour, we have a $25 gift card to give away for the LTN health question of the day. So we're trying to find ways to reward the audience, and we like doing that. Dr. Michael Lewis is my guest today, and Dr. Michael Lewis is on the medical board for CV Sciences. I mentioned Dr. Lewis at the top of the show. He has an impressive bio or CV, whatever you want to call it, and has had a great career and continues to work and has now his practice in the Washington, D.C. area. And Dr. Lewis, it's been a while since we chatted. It's so nice to have you back on the air. Welcome to the show.
Hey, Dr. Garko, how you doing today?
All things considered, okay. It's chemo week.
Well,
it's chemo week, Dr. Lewis.
You and I haven't had a chance to catch up lately, but hopefully we'll find some time here shortly. But
sure.
It's a pleasure to be on the show. Thanks.
It's nice to have you on. It's nice to have you on. In your, how would you describe your? I have a reason for asking, and I'll try not to probe too much here because I understand the ethical issues. How would you describe your practice?
I would say it's more of a functional medicine model, looking at helping people recover from traumatic brain injury and concussions, or achieve brain health in general.
Mm-hmm. And that's how you market. That's how you communicate to the community what you do. That you specialize in this arena.
But I specialize in helping. Basically, in a quick sentence, would be I specialize in helping people recover from a concussion.
Concussion. And I'm sure you know off the top of your head. What are the numbers? What are the statistics surrounding concussion in our country here? Children, adults, and whomever in between.
Well, it's estimated, and of course, a big part of it is we don't know, because we can only really count the people that come into the medical system, such as emergency rooms and hospitals. And so it's estimated somewhere between 3 million and 4.5 million people a year have some sort of head injury. And the reason why we don't really know, we can document about 1.5 million of them, because they come into the medical system. But we don't know who either just sort of shakes it off and goes home and sleeps it off, or the doctor, or they go to their primary care physician who's not tied in with the network and doesn't have to report his or her numbers, that type of thing. So there's the big unknown.
Among the people that don't report, is it often the case that they don't even know they had a concussion?
sometimes concussions can be either really obvious or not. And I like to say concussions are like snowflakes. Every single one is different. And if you get knocked unconscious, or you have such a blow to the head from slipping on the ice or playing, weekend soccer or whatever the case may be, and you have pretty typical symptoms. I mean, we can always think of sort of the Bugs Bunny cartoon with the stars going over your head and you lose your balance and just really out of it. Those are the real obvious ones. But there's certainly ones that are less obvious, and you just sort of shake it off. But then a week or so later, you sort of realize you've been really forgetful and really much more tired than usual, or a headache that won't go, that comes and goes or won't go away. So those are the real, probably the biggest problems, is sort of the memory, cognitive area, and energy levels, and headaches.
But do most people who don't go to the hospital, don't report it? Do many of them? Do you think there's a sizable proportion of them that don't even realize that they're dealing with a concussion?
Well, I think there actually is, unfortunately, and I think even more scary is that people don't necessarily connect the dots between what happened a month ago and the reason why they're struggling today, when because they think, well, I didn't really notice that much of a difference, or I just sort of, in a day or two everything seemed to clear up. But now all of a sudden, a month later, having problems with memory or whatever, and they won't necessarily connect it back to the injury in the first place.
I've been twice. I had a concussion twice. Once in high school during a football game, and then once later on in life when I was a police officer. And
were both diagnosed?
Yeah, both was diagnosed. One was from a hospital diagnosed me once, and then the trainer diagnosed me as having concussion. And I can tell you right now, I've got about 40 minutes of my life I can't remember.
See?
Yeah.
This goes on. Are there? When we come back, I have a lot of questions for you, Dr. Lewis. I mean, I want to get into this today a little bit. I think this. I don't need to tell you. I believe it's underreported, underestimated. It certainly has gained some notoriety, the whole idea of the concept of head injuries with the NFL.
Warren Sapp's going to donate his brain doc.
Okay, there you go. And that has been a positive, but I still think even with all of that, it's not just an athlete problem. I think it's a layperson problem, and we'll try to understand this a little better today. Very serious. Most people think, I don't need to worry about this. I'm concussion. What concussion? I don't get concussions. Well, let's talk about it. LTN, Coast to Coast. We'll be right back.
Whether you spend your free time on a treadmill, under a car, or in your garden, if your active lifestyle leaves you sore, Body Vigor's Inflammaforce may be exactly what you need. Inflammaforce has a natural herb blend that acts as an anti-inflammatory to help maintain healthy joint and mobility support. There are standardized herbs like white willow, boswellia, turmeric, ginger, and devil's claw. The vegetarian capsule promotes easy digestion and a fast-acting dissolve process. Inflammaforce includes a proprietary enzyme herbal blend full of antioxidants and flavonoids that target pain and inflammation throughout the body. Body Vigor's Inflammaforce contains ingredients that support normal, healthy joint flexibility and function, builds healthy tissue, and helps with your recovery process. So if you're tired of sore joints and inflamed muscles, Body Vigor's Inflammaforce is your answer. Purchase Inflammaforce exclusively on Amazon.com.
presented some interesting statistics on traumatic brain injuries. And they said that these TBIs contribute to a substantial number of deaths and cases of permanent disability. And they said annually there's about an estimated 17 million that sustain a TBI. 52,000 people will die. 275,000 are hospitalized. Nearly 80% are related and released from emergency departments, and so on. Are those numbers pretty accurate or no, with respect to traumatic brain injuries?
Well, as far as I know, I'm not going to question the.
It's hard to know, right?
Yeah, but it doesn't surprise me.
Yeah.
I do have to say though that one of the things one of those numbers that always gets bantered about is that 80% of all head injuries will get better within 2 weeks, and that's just not my experience. The more and more I do this, I think 80% of people might be able to get back to functioning, to the point of getting back to school or to their job or whatever. But it doesn't necessarily mean that they're symptom-free.
Mm-hmm. Are there special sectors of the population, like children and elderly, that are particularly susceptible to head injuries?
Well, and they are for obviously different reasons. So, the elderly, it's the loss of muscle control and muscle mass, and creaking bones. All the problems that we associate with aging. So. Certainly in the elderly population, one of the most important things that we could do for our health is regular exercise, and even with weight-bearing exercises, even getting into the gym and doing literally lifting weights is really so important as we age, and particularly even for our older population.
Sure.
And
well. In theory,
like to do that.
In theory, that's a great idea, but oftentimes, as you well know from your experience as a physician over these many decades, many of the elderly are so have comorbidities, and it's so difficult for them to do it. Before I forget, is there a difference in the language here? Concussion, traumatic brain injury. Are they synonyms or are they different?
They are synonyms, and you might get some differing opinions on this, but I would very bluntly say that concussions are a traumatic brain injury. We just, sometimes it's considered mild traumatic brain injury. So what's the difference between mild traumatic brain injury and concussion? And my real answer for that is people don't like to be told they've had a brain injury, so we soften the language and tell them they've had a concussion.
That's interesting.
It's a nicer way to tell them they've had a mild traumatic brain injury.
I'm struck by that.
Well, if you think about it, the mechanism that causes a concussion it's a transfer of energy to or through the brain, and that's also the same definition with sequelae, and that's the definition of a mild traumatic brain injury as well. So where's the difference?
But I guess people are uncomfortable. The patient becomes uncomfortable if you look at the patient, say, Mrs. Jones, you've had a brain injury, versus you had a concussion.
Absolutely.
That's a psychological effect here.
It is. That's what I'm saying. We soften the blow, no pun intended.
Soften the blow.
We soften the language by telling people they've had a concussion when it really, truly is a brain injury.
And no matter what, what is a concussion? Isn't it? I was always told it's the brain shakes in the head, almost like.
Okay, good question. What's the operational definition of a concussion?
Well, it depends on where you go in the scientific literature. In the scientific literature, there's been estimated to be somewhere roughly around 45 or 50 different definitions.
My goodness.
And so I kind of stick with the basic concept that it's a transfer of some type of energy to or through the brain that causes subsequent problems down the line.
What gets injured here? The tissue, brain tissue. What's the nature of the injury here? Is it the neurons? What happens? This, that seems like an obvious question, but I've never heard anybody answer that, or at least.
Well, it is an obvious question without an obvious answer, and the most truthful answer is we don't completely understand it. I mean, it's the brain; it's complicated, but. So it depends on the level or the mechanism and the individuality of the injury. So if it's a violent shaking of the brain inside the skull and the brain's hitting up against the inside of the skull, it can cause a physical bruising of the brain, of the tissue itself.
So like shaken baby syndrome, or an NFL football player colliding with another.
I've had patients with all the symptoms of a concussion who have no other mechanism of injury other than a roller coaster ride.
What? Really?
Because of the sometimes violent shaking of the brain on a roller coaster ride, some people can be susceptible to that. And
I never thought of that.
And without, so there's not any physical, it's a whiplash injury. So you can, if you're in a car accident, you get rear-ended, you can have the symptoms of a concussion without being unconscious and so on from the whiplash.
Football player, the lineman, on almost every play, whether they make head contact or not, I mean, they're making body contact, and it's like two giant tractor trailers colliding with one another when they smack up against the block and whatnot, rusher and then the blocker. I don't know. Everybody assumes that you have to have head-to-head contact to have the injury. That may not be true, right?
It may not be true, and certainly sometimes, and that's the thing is, a football helmet or any helmet cannot prevent a concussion.
Okay,
no matter what anybody says.
All right, just trying to sort through this. This is intriguing and interesting. I think most people don't realize how susceptible they are to traumatic brain injury. My goodness, you could just around the house slip and fall, whatever. We're going to get into this a lot more. One of the best experts on this topic, Dr. Michael Lewis, without a doubt, LTN Coast to Coast. Welcome to Let's Talk Nutrition. If you just tuned in, we're delighted that you tuned in. And if you carried over from the first portion of the show, thank you so much. That's why we're here. We're here for you. The show's about you, the audience, the listener, and the viewer. And Dr. Michael Lewis is my guest today. We're talking about traumatic brain injury. And I think people are certainly aware of concussions. We're concerned about them. But I don't think that our consciousness is raised enough about this health concern. Certainly in the NFL, it is, finally. It's gotten some attention. And in sports, everything from soccer to hockey to football. But in the general population, I believe that there are more people than not with traumatic brain injuries that don't report it, don't even know they may have it, they may think so, and don't understand the implications of a traumatic brain injury or repeated traumatic brain injuries. And there are certain things that seem rather benign that could contribute. Let me give you an example. There are a lot of soccer moms out there that are anxious for their children to play soccer. I was recently reading some reports and articles, commentary about, you know how soccer players bounce the ball back and forth with their head? Doesn't seem like a very violent thing to do, or would be, otherwise create a traumatic brain injury. But according to the writers, the folks the articles that I read, they were saying otherwise. I want to get Dr. Lewis's comment on that today. And now I understand that in some cases, coaches are reducing that kind of practice and maybe even eliminating it. I don't know. But even in soccer, hitting the ball with the head, so obviously sometimes it's very violent, you can see, but other times just bouncing it back and forth can produce a traumatic brain injury, at least according to some that I have read. We'll see what Dr. Lewis thinks about that. You have race car drivers, you have athletes of all kinds, hockey, no matter. And we're all susceptible. And there's a reason why that brain is located where it is and why it's inside that hard casing, right? The skull. It is delicate. It is susceptible to injury. And we're just trying to raise our consciousness about it today and give you some insights, some statistics, some understanding of how to treat them. Dr. Lewis, in fact, has a practice in the Washington, D.C. area. That's what he specializes in. And there's an interesting story as to how he got into all of that in the first place. I'll have him share that with you if he's so inclined. Please call the show if you have any question whatsoever about this. No question is a bad question, or you may think it a dumb. No. You call, you ask, we'll answer.
You can reach us at 877-897-8255. That's 877-897-8255.
Dr. Lewis, welcome back. You heard my trying to do a little setup for you. What about this business in soccer where the kids are, practicing hitting the ball back and forth with their head? The articles that I read, a couple of them said that could contribute to traumatic brain injury. Your take?
Well, the idea of like two players standing, 5 yards apart and throwing the ball and just heading it back to the person throwing the ball, probably not likely. But if you think about, a soccer game and you got the goalie punts the ball halfway down the field, that's a whole different story. And
right.
Then, of course, the bigger issue is not head to ball as much as it is head to head of two players going up for a header
Yes.
gliding, and that's when the most devastating injury.
Well, the velocity of that ball, you know, the goalie kicks that ball and kicks it high, and the velocity of that ball coming down is I mean, I suspect that it's at a high rate of speed, and then you hit your head, you head it before it hits the ground. That has to be a substantial impact, don't you think?
Oh, absolutely. Have you ever done that? I mean,
No, I never have.
I have. It hurts. I wouldn't do it, intentionally for a living, but I'd rather play football.
Do you have youngsters coming into your practice?
I do. I've got more and more teenagers seem to be coming in, and particularly girls. Girls tend to be, and this is actually ties back to you asked about the young and the old. The young and females up through even into their 20s have a similar problem. Their head size, and of course in smaller kids, their heads are bigger than the bodies, kind of thing. And girls also is neck strength, and so it's starting to be realized that doing neck strengthening exercises, whether you're a girl hockey player, soccer player, or whatever, that can help decrease the risk of concussions, because it's believed that the lack of neck strength in girls compared to their boy counterparts is one of the risk factors.
Unbelievable. That never occurred to me.
We have a James Haley Hospital here in
It's a
Tampa.
VA. It's a VA.
VA hospital and Bay Pines, which is a VA hospital, and I deal with a lot of guys. I shoot trap and skeet, and I deal with a lot of guys that have head injuries and they have no depth perception now.
Is that common, Dr. Lewis? Did you lose depth?
That one I've not heard before. So I'm not sure how common that is. But
I think it's just an excuse because they can't shoot. But
which leads me, your question, Gary. You were sort of anticipating what I was thinking. Dr. Lewis, how did you get into the arena of head injuries in the first? Could you please? I know the answer, but could you please share that with the listener and the viewer of LTN Coast to Coast?
Well, the short story is I did 31 and a half years in the Army, and my last my last 7 years or so, I was a professor at the Uniformed Services University, the military's medical school, at Walter Reed. And you can't be at Walter Reed in the last 15 years while we got a war going on and not be around wounded warriors. And so you start to wonder, what is it that you can do to help with the war effort? And I've got and subsequently had a general officer, one of my old roommates, good friends, who sort of poked me in the chest one 4th of July and said, "What are you doing to help with traumatic brain injury?" And got to thinking, the Sago mine accident had just happened in January 2006, and I started hearing about how this guy, neurosurgeon Julian Bales, started using high-dose fish oil to help that one survivor. And I got to wondering, would that work for traumatic brain injury? Called Julian Bales, talked to him, and basically went and asked the question to the head of research at Walter Reed. And the answer, I said, "Is anybody looking at this?" And the answer was, "No, why don't you?" And that's how I got into it.
You had a patient.
That's the question.
You had a patient, a young boy, in which you administered high-dose fish oil, yes?
Well, just after that, so people started asking me, my brother, my uncle, my cousin, and I'm talking at conferences about it and trying to meet anybody that knew anything about it, all 5 or 6 people in the world. And then, I got a call. It was actually on Brain Injury Awareness Day in March of 2010. I got a call, and I'm standing on the steps of the U.S. Capitol in dress uniform, meeting with members of Congress, not right at that moment, but my phone rang, and it was a friend from the FDA, and I was like, "Oh, am I in trouble?" And he goes, No, this is personal.
Okay, we come back, we'll continue the story, and then we're going to tie this to CBD oil.
If you've ever had digestive issues slow you down, it's time Almost 52% of men experience erectile dysfunction and benign prostatic hyperplasia. If you've had challenges with virility, sexual health, or low energy, Body Vigor's Alpha Extension may be the answer for you. Body Vigor's Alpha Extension can help revitalize your alpha male and extend your love. Our formula is one of the highest quality nutraceuticals available, formulated to support the processes involved in promoting a healthy male sex drive, energy, and stamina. Alpha Extension has 2 powerful herbal blends, Virilla Max, which focuses on male sexual health, and T-Pump Activator, which helps balance your testosterone levels. Revitalize your alpha male with Body Vigor's Alpha Extension, exclusively available on Amazon.com.
And with what effect?
Well, the story of Bobby, the kid that was in the severe car accident, was really instrumental in my understanding of CBD. And so fast forward 5 years later, in 2015, I finally convinced him, hey, let's try this new stuff called CBD. And about 2 weeks later, I get a call from his father and from Bobby himself saying this has been life-changing. And his anxiety levels, depression levels had all completely vanished, to the point now where Bobby's living in Los Angeles doing stand-up comedy.
This is a young man then that was initially treated with fish oil to help with this is a severe traumatic brain injury, and then several years later you introduced the idea of CBD oil to him, and it took him to another level of healing, so to speak.
Not even that. It just took him to a complete new and better level of functioning. And so what I found is most head injury patients, most concussion patients actually start to suffer a bit of anxiety, potentially even depression, but anxiety is a really underestimated, under-discussed problem with head injuries. And CBD, to me, is better than any benzodiazepine or any pharmaceutical drug out there. And it works quick. Within 15, 20 minutes, somebody taking CBD will notice a difference, even quicker in some ways. Depends on how you consume it. And the effects can be, all day long. So I start people off in the morning. Take it with your morning vitamins or your breakfast, and so that your day gets off to a smooth start. And a lot of times, just that one dose in the morning is enough to hold somebody all day long with their anxiety levels. And but it's also used for chronic pain as well.
And one of my producers uses the CBD oil. Because he's trying to dialogue his girlfriend a little better. No, because he has so much anxiety.
I suffer from anxiety, and the anxiety leads to a little bit of depression. And it's funny that you say that because, I have I guess you would say, a line of depression in my family. I mean, and so it was just something that
you have found. You've been taking this now, and it has helped you.
Oh, unbelievably. And I can tell you right now what he said is true, because I ran out on Monday and it clicked. I'm like, I haven't had my CBD oil
yesterday.
Since Monday.
You told me you weren't feeling well. You were a little depressed and this and that.
Yeah. And it was like nothing had happened. It just was like I was feeling depressed.
You hadn't taken your. That's interesting, isn't it, Dr. Lewis?
It is. It's a powerful. I think it's the best thing out there right now.
And by the way, you don't have to have a head injury and then have anxiety. The anxiety can be with somebody without a head injury, correct?
Oh, absolutely. Okay. I mean, I could tell you story after story, but yeah, people who suffer from anxiety will absolutely benefit from taking CBD.
All right, we come back, we'll explore this some more. That's what we try to do around here. We're searching, we're hunting, we're trying to learn, and educate, empower the listener and the viewer, maybe a little bit of entertainment in there, too. It's got to be entertaining. It's not all dark and grim, You are listening to Let's Talk Nutrition, where your health, your wellness, and your well-being is our first order of business.
Feeling tired after your meal?
Looking for the perfect complement to your beauty regimen? Try Form Essentials Zinnia. The finest of its kind, Zinnia offers twice as much biotin as other formulas, which has proven to unlock the vibrancy in even the dullest of hair, skin, and nails. Zinnia breaks through and rejuvenates cells internally, helping you achieve the allure of effortless beauty. Reviving your hair, skin, and nails has never been easier. This essential blend of biotin, alpha-lipoic, and hyaluronic acid, collagen, and vitamin C creates lasting enhancements to your natural good looks. Don't go on wondering. You're worth the results. This combination of ingredients can only be found in Zinnia. Pamper yourself with a proven bit of affordable luxury and start looking your best. Ask for Zinnia by name at your nearest vitamin retailer to begin your journey to restored nails, head-turning hair, and radiant skin today. For more information, visit formessentials.com.
When your alarm goes off, do you jump out of bed with excitement, or does it take multiple alarms, a few snooze buttons, or a morning caffeine fix to get you going? These habits and daily stress cause a vicious cycle in which sleep becomes increasingly elusive. In fact, 54% of Americans report struggles to fall or stay asleep. For a better night's rest, look no further than Solace, an all-natural dietary supplement that supports healthy sleep and relaxation, so you get the rest you need to wake up clear-eyed, alert, and ready for the day. Solace has given thousands a better night's rest and the power to take back their mornings while enjoying the day ahead of them. Solace is formulated with non-addictive, scientifically proven, all-natural ingredients that support sleep and relaxation, such as melatonin, tryptophan, and 5-HTP. For more information or to order Solace, visit takesolace.com. Solace for healthy sleep naturally.
Did you know that 7 in 10 people have digestive issues? It's no wonder, really. When you take a closer look at what's inside, you'll see that our intestinal environment is similar to a lush garden, a flourishing biodiversity comprised of healthy gut flora. Flora that we depend upon for our health and well-being. Stress, over-sanitization, over-processed foods, and the overuse of antibiotics have clear-cut our guts, leaving our tummies feeling, well, not great. You see, what we have done by killing off the gut flora is damage the soil of our inner gardens. With damaged soil, nothing can really grow or flourish, and disease starts to set in. But we will let you in on a little secret. Fermentation makes all the difference. You know that bloated feeling you can get when taking a vegan protein? Oh, come on. We know you know. Almost all of us get it. That feeling comes from a natural protective casing that surrounds grains and legumes. Because this casing acts as a natural defense mechanism to prevent the grain or legume from being digested, the result is gas and bloating as it passes through our digestive tract. This is where the magic of fermentation comes in. Only fermentation breaks down this casing, freeing the nutrients for absorption by your body. Not only that, but it amplifies the existing nutrients. This means you are getting all the available nutrients from your protein. But there's more. Remember our garden that we clear cut? Well, fermentation, when done right, actually restores that biodiversity of flora. Fermentation naturally replenishes the soil in our garden. Can your protein powder do all that? Well, ours can. Fermented Vegan Proteins Plus by Genuine Health. 7 plant-based sources for a complete amino acid profile. No bloating, maximizes protein and nutrient absorption, and strengthens your gut health. Gluten-free, soy-free, dairy-free, non-GMO, and 100% vegan. Try some today. Your gut will thank you. Genuine Health is possible.
their frequency, and we're just trying to put a little spotlight on that health issue today. And Dr. Lewis has a nice practice, a wonderful practice in the Washington, D.C. area, and he specializes in traumatic brain injuries. Dr. Lewis, welcome back. So you have found in your practice using the cannabidiol, the CBD oil from CV Sciences, has made an appreciable difference in your patients, in their health and recovery from the injuries.
Well, it's gotten to the point where literally when a new patient comes in the door, I start off with several things, get them on my fish oil, my omega-3 protocol, and I just stop wasting time. I'm not doing it stepwise anymore. I tell them that they need to be on CBD right at the beginning, and I feel really, really comfortable about that because I'm seeing the results. One of the things about CBD is it's under patent protection, and or I should say there was a patent awarded to a Nobel Prize winning neuroscientist a few years ago using CBD as a neuroprotectant to help with traumatic brain injury, stroke, Alzheimer's disease, Parkinson's, and so on.
That's interesting. And do you let me see, how can I put this? How do you rely on the self-report of the patient as to the effect, or do you do any kind of testing of the brain and you can see differences? I mean, what kind of clinical evidence are you using to make a determination about the efficaciousness or the effectiveness of the CBD oil?
Well, two things. One is, being in a small clinical practice, I don't have the resources of a research university, so I'm not doing MRIs or functional MRIs or, all kinds of crazy expensive things. So number one is, and most importantly, is the person feeling better? It doesn't matter if you give them a placebo. If they believe that they feel better, you've done some good. And
there you go.
Most importantly is the person feeling better. Number two is you try to quantify that with questionnaires and such. Try to quantify the symptoms, but ultimately those symptoms that they're quantifying are subjective. We just put numbers on them, like, what's your pain from 0 to 10, that type of thing. It's still very subjective. We just put a number on it to make us feel like we're doing more objective.
I understand. You're listening to Dr. Michael Lewis. Dr. Lewis is one of the leading experts in traumatic brain injury. You might serve yourself well if you want to know more about this topic and read his book, When Brains Collide. It's available on Amazon. And if you'd like to speak with Dr. Lewis, please, we invite you to call the show.
877-897-8255. That's 877-897-8255. Dr. Lewis, I have a question. Now, you, going out of an Army background, you have this, seems like more of this heart for your patients than a lot of people I've ever talked to about trying to help.
That's Dr. Lewis. That's how he sort of, Gary, that's how he sort of put together.
But it's Gary, like a brotherly thing, though,
I guess Gary's making the observation. He's surprised that you display the sort of empathy.
I want to say he's going against Big Farm, and it's kind of just amazes me, is what I want to say.
All right, well, okay, there you go.
Yeah, well, if I disappear mysteriously,
we'll know why.
I had to address that gorilla in the room, and that's what it is, and it's.
Well, he's a good guy. You never met him. You might get a chance when we go to Baltimore for the trade show. Are you going to be there, Dr. Lewis?
Probably. September's looking really, really busy, but I'm pretty sure I'll at least be there like on either that Thursday or Friday.
Mm-hmm. And when you're putting your patients on, and if he goes, Gary, I'll introduce you to him. We'll stop by.
There's goosebumps, you know that, right?
Yeah, he's a good guy. He's a nice man. He's a good guy. Even though he went to West Point, you would think he'd be unapproachable. No, it's not true. No, he's not. I love those stories about West Point.
Say,
by the way,
it's My father was a small town general surgeon, and pretty much you can't go to our hometown and without anybody over the age of 40 or 50 who didn't know my father and how well respected. And I would tell you, he almost didn't make it in business because he didn't want to charge his patients because we're talking back in the 60s, and he basically, well, they can't afford it, so why send them a bill?
I got to care for him anyway, right?
Yeah, and so my mother, of course, didn't put up with that, and got the office side of things straightened out. But he did it because he loved. He practiced medicine because he loved it.
Yeah, and I get the sense you do as well.
What greater calling can there be than to help your fellow man?
I know. It's so rewarding, isn't it? Which CBD oil products do you use in your practice? Which ones have you found to be pretty good here?
I only use
from CV Sciences. From CV Sciences.
And so so I'm on the board of advisors for CV Sciences, and they have their retail line of products called Plus CBD Oil, and you can access that at your local health food store, but pluscbdoil.com is also a way to access them through the internet. And I really like their soft gels that have been out for a little about a year and a half.
Soft gels.
They're 15 milligram gold soft gels. They have different levels, and gold is the most concentrated. And that's one I have the most experience with and like it. And I take it every single day myself.
Oh, I have asked you that on other occasions when you've been on. Do you take it? And you said you do.
It's not because I'm struggling with any issues, but I just feel better. Like Gary said, you notice when you don't take it, and you notice when you do take it.
Well, that's often. And you know what? Usually a placebo doesn't work like that with that kind of consistency. You know what I mean? Sooner or later, the placebo reveals itself, it seems to me. I could be wrong about that. And that's how I know it's the real deal here. And CV Sciences, of course, is on the cutting edge of trying to bring science to the study and understanding of this compound and making headway in that arena. And there's more and more research with CBD oil, and that's for the betterment of the consumer, and we're learning more and more. We come back, we'll continue our conversation with Dr. Lewis. You can visit cvsciences.com, and you will see that the website is very nice, and the products are there. And Dr. Lewis uses the CV Sciences, their CBD oil in a soft gel, and it's the gold. It's called gold. And but there are others. There's sprays and different. They have different delivery systems, and yeah, you can experience that and learn about that. Come back. We'll have the LTN Health Question of the Day. LTN, coast to coast.
Want to get at the...
Is that old sports injury flaring up? Is your body aching from the daily wear and tear at work? Body Vigor's Joint Ready keeps you at the ready for any joint pain that gets out of line. Unfortunately, as we age, joint pain becomes more common. Body Vigor's Joint Ready can help provide relief so you can continue to go about your day. Our formula contains sulfated forms of glucosamine and chondroitin. Studies show that these sulfated forms are more effective than regular glucosamine bound to hydrochloride. Joint Ready promotes a healthy inflammatory response, facilitates cartilage synthesis, and provides additional antioxidants. Keep your joints at the ready with Body Vigor's Joint Ready, exclusively on Amazon.com.
Here's the LTN health question of the day. Right answer, $25 supplement gift card. It turns out that traumatic brain, this is according to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, and they're a pretty reliable outfit, you know. Traumatic brain injury, TBI, as they reported, is and I'm quoting them, a major cause of death and disability in the United States, end quote. Here's the question. TBIs, traumatic brain injuries, contribute to about 30% or 50% of all injury deaths. TBIs contribute to about 30% or 50% of all injury deaths. Let me point this out to you based on the CDC report. Every day in America, 153 people in the U.S. die from injuries that include TBI. Here's the number to call to win the prize.
877-897-8255. 877-897-8255.
What percent TBIs contribute to what? 30% or 50% of all injury deaths? You can guess, 50-50 chance. Let's go to St. Petersburg, Florida. Chris, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Dr. Parker.
My pleasure.
Yeah, I had a question about the CBD oil. I drive for a living, and probably heard this before, but I just wanted to see if it would pass on a DOT drug test.
Good question.
I personally know it does.
How do you know?
Because I was taking it for a month and a half, and when Vitamin Discount Center hired me, they tested me.
Right.
I had to do 2 physicals, and I passed both.
What's your take on it, Dr. Lewis? Have you had any issues with that with patients?
Well, being in Washington, D.C., I have some interesting patients, as you can imagine. And so if somebody has a top secret clearance, I would probably not put them on it. But for a CDL and this, that, and the other, I don't think that's going to be an issue. Mainly because the way we test for these things are we do urine tests, and it tests for THC. And so when we're talking about CBD and hemp-derived CBD, there basically has to be no THC or just even maybe a trace at the most THC. So it's not enough that's going to ever get you high. It's not enough that should ever show up in any kind of urinalysis test for THC.
Does that, Chris, how often do you get tested?
They pop test us, and you could go like twice in a month, but usually you go annually.
I see. And how long have you been driving for a living?
I'd say probably the last 17 years.
Oh my goodness.
You long haul or short haul?
Short haul.
Short haul.
Touch freight?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, if you got back pain, that's why I started. It was because of that.
Yeah, believe it or not, I do.
Well, the CBD oil does, according to some research and anecdotal reports, it does help with moderation of discomfort or pain, back pain. So you might consider that, Chris.
Okay, would you suggest the gold?
Yes.
Okay.
Well,
sounds good then.
Yeah, bang. Yeah, just go right. Go ahead.
Gold comes in a couple of different ways. I highly recommend the soft gels.
Yeah, it's easy. The soft gels are easy, Chris.
Okay.
And if you start to take it, could you let me know? Call us back and let me know what your experience is.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Chris. Please. Thanks a lot, man, and we appreciate what what you guys do, moving freight and whatnot. I get it. You make a great contribution. We appreciate that.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Garca.
You take care, pal. Let's go to Soudertown. Teresa, welcome to the show. You had a question.
I had called about my son. He has had a number of concussions, and he does go to a neurologist, but he still suffers from headaches.
Yeah.
And sleeps a lot.
Does he suffers from headache and he does what a lot?
He sleeps a lot.
He sleeps a lot. How old is he?
He gets on medication for the sleeping.
I see. How old is he?
Ed is 44.
Mm-hmm. And what were the causes of the concussions? What occasioned the concussions?
Well, he has a business, and he's very tall, and he went down in the basement, and he smacked into the iron pipes real hard, and he had bleeding on the brain with it, and he was in the hospital quite a long time, and still dealing with these headaches.
All right, let's talk to Dr. Lewis about that. Dr. Lewis?
Well, in general, for somebody that has headaches, which is not, it's very common after head injuries. I always start them on the Omega protocol that I have talked about. I talk about it in the book, When Brains Collide. I put it up for free. Anybody can access it on my nonprofit website, which is brainhealtheducation.org. And so it starts with substantial amounts of omega-3s and then taper down to a more regular amount over a couple of weeks. And I start people on CBD, the gold 15 milligram soft gels. Now, both of those things are nutrition, and they're not a drug. It's not like taking an Advil and the pain goes away necessarily, but it can help nutritionally deal with the brain injury and the fatigue and the headaches.
So you can get Dr. Lewis's book, When Brains Collide. You can learn a lot in there, Teresa. You can go to the CV Sciences website. What is it? CVSciences.com?
Well, plus CBDoil.com.
Plus CBDoil.com. Of course, the show's on demand. You can replay it and pick up the ways to get in touch with it. And I hope we answered your question.
Yes, we did. And I'd say 50% of the question that you had asked, I'd say 50% people die from.
Yeah, well, it's a
multiple ones.
Well, we're going to give you the 30. It's 30%, but we're going to give you the prize anyway. How about that? Okay. So you're a winner. The answer is 30%, but we're going to award you the prize anyway because you called in, and we appreciate it. We appreciate your listenership. Dr. Lewis, thank you so much for being on the show today. It's great to have you on. Thanks for your contribution. Thanks for all you do.
Thanks for serving.
Thanks, and thank you for your service. Remember, your health is your wealth.
As a family-owned company since 1968.